About 15 years ago, if you were looking to buy a sports sedan in America, the Acura TL was the it car. When the radical third generation TL came out back in 2004, buyers flocked into Acura showrooms with their BMW, Mercedes, and Audi trade-ins, all wanting to get their hands on this new Acura sports sedan. Unfortunately, TL sales have fallen off a cliff since then, and about 5 years ago, Acura combined the smaller TSX and TL to create the TLX. Today, let's examine the history of the TL, why it became so popular, what happened to it, and what Acura has in store for us in the future. Hey guys, before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Shine Armor. Now, I've been making videos on cars on YouTube for the better part of 7 years now, and one of the constant struggles that I deal with is trying to keep the cars clean in between the shoots. The cars definitely don't always stay as clean as you see them in the videos, and sometimes they are a little bit dirty, and you guys have definitely let me know when they aren't as clean as they should be. Now, to help me with keeping the cars clean, Shine Armor wanted me to show you the product that I constantly use in between the shoots. This is called the Fortify Quick Coat, and it's essentially a beefed up spray detailer that has some ceramic coating in it. Now, ceramic coating is that stuff that dealers typically charge you $1,000 for to have your car coated with, so you no longer have to wash and wax it. Now, this stuff here is really great because it's a quick detailer that you can use to clean up a car, to touch up a car in between washes. And it actually forms a protective coating to help keep it clean for months instead of days or weeks like typical spray detailers do. And Shine Armor says this stuff is formulated with a special emulsification process that actually will surround the dirt that's on the paint of the car and encapsulate it in liquid. So it safely allows you to remove the dirt, the loose dirt that's on the vehicle, with this stuff and with just a regular rag. I know a lot of you are worried, won't it scratch the paint if you're using it on a dirty car without actually washing it with water to remove the dirt first? Well, Shine Armor has a 30-day money-back guarantee, and I've been using this stuff for years. So as an example, here is my 2018 Tesla Model 3 Performance, and trust me, my spouse drives this thing to and from work every day, and it gets dirty. This is literally after about 2 weeks with the caked on dirt and nasty road debris all over the back of the bumper and on the rear trunk lid. All you have to do is take this stuff here, and Shine Armor says you need to spray it very liberally all over the paint. You need to get it very much soaked onto the paint. And then you'll just take a clean rag here and you'll just kind of wipe away all the dirt. Now, typically I would not trust a product like this without actually having to wash the vehicle first because, again, some of you are wondering, what about scratches? Well, the beauty about this product is if you use it constantly, it always leaves a protective layer of film on it to prevent scratches, and it allows you to basically just lift off the dirt very quickly without having to use any water, because trust me, you don't always have time to take out the bucket and hose and wash the car completely. So as you can see, this is the dirty rag. The rag was clean before and now it's covered in the dirt, and what you're left with is basically the shiny paint and no scratches on the back of the vehicle. So if you guys are interested in picking up a bottle of the Fortify Quick Coat, be sure to click on the BOGO link in the description below. Shine Armor is actually running an exclusive Redline deal right now, and you guys could get up to 4 bottles free depending on which pack you order. So to understand the TL, let me first have a little discussion with you about the history of this model. The TL was introduced back in 1995 as a 96 model, and it replaced the old Acura Vigor in the US Acura lineup. The TL was also the first Acura model to introduce the alphanumeric naming scheme, which back then TL stood for Touring Luxury. The TL went on to become one of Acura's best-selling models, and it went through 4 generations here in the States, spanning up to 2014. So the first generation of the Acura TL was launched back in 1996, and this was also the shortest lived of all the generations because it was replaced with an all-new model in 1999. It was launched here in America with 2 distinct models, the 2.5 TL and the 3.2 TL, and both were based off of the Japanese market Accord platform. The 2.5 TL had the same 2.5-liter 5-cylinder engine that made 176 horsepower, and that was lifted straight out of the Acura Vigor sedan. While the more powerful 3.2 TL had the 3.2-liter V6 that was lifted out of the 2nd generation Acura Legend, and it was part of the legendary C-Series engine family, which, by the way, if you guys think the C-Series engine family sounds familiar, it shares a block with the same motor that was in the 1st generation NSX supercar. Just like the Legend, these engines were mounted longitudinally, despite the fact that the 1st gen TL was actually a front-wheel drive drive architecture. It was also the only TL to be built in Japan before the second generation model replaced it in 1999, but despite it being imported, Acura went on to sell just under 100,000 units in the 3-year lifespan. In 1999, Acura launched the all-new second generation TL, and this is the generation TL that I remember the most. In the US, you could initially buy the car in 3.2 TL forms, which was the same as last year's model, however, it had an all-new engine this year. The new TL was also a bigger car in order to appeal to American taste. It was about an inch longer overall, however, Acura actually chopped off about 3 inches in the wheelbase in order to give the thing a little bit better proportions. The new TL was now based on the US market Accord, which was all new for 1998, and it was also the first TL to be built in Marysville, Ohio. Now, because the TL was now based off the new Accord, it also had a new engine. It's part of the new J series engine family, which replaced the old C series. The engine itself had the same displacement as the previous generation at 3.2 liters, but now it was mounted transversely. They added VTEC variable valve timing and lift technology, and they also increased the power from 200 to 225. Regarding the transmissions, Acura initially launched the car with a 4-speed automatic, but then replaced it with a 5-speed automatic in the year 2000. All TLs were still only front-wheel drive. Unfortunately, when Acura replaced the 4-speed automatic with that new 5-speed, they were also plagued with horrible transmission problems. In fact, a plethora of owners reported a multitude of transmission problems as early as 2 years into owning the car, and complaints were circled around slipping, failing to shift, and downright just downshifting when you were traveling at freeway speeds, causing the car to come to a complete halt. The problem was centered around a faulty third clutch pack, which allowed particles of the transmission to actually break off and block off oil passages, which starved the transmission of its lubricating fluids, which is why they were actually starting to fail at such an early rate. To respond to the complaints, Acura eventually extended the warranty to 7 years or 100,000 miles and offered rebuilt transmissions. However, those of you who had your transmissions replaced before May of 2005, they would eventually fail again because Acura didn't actually fix the problem until the transmission was built after May of 2005. 2002 brought a completely refreshed TL, and this is the TL that I actually liked the most as a kid because it was when Acura first introduced a Type S model. That was the first time we saw a performance-oriented version of the TL, and essentially took the same 3.2-liter V6. Acura massaged it a little bit to increase horsepower to 260, which back then was the most power you could get in the segment. Now, despite the transmission problems, this generation TL was a huge hit for Acura, with sales exceeding 310,000 units from the time that this vehicle was in production from 1999 to 2003. So now I'm standing by a car that will probably go down in history as one of the most timeless and elegant Japanese sedans ever offered in America, the third generation TL. Now, when this car came out back in 2004, the entire industry was shook because Acura introduced a sedan that had rear-wheel drive proportions. Despite the fact that this car was still a front-wheel drive car, they infused it with rear drive proportions, and it really hid its more plebeian Honda Accord roots very well. Now, besides being a beautiful car, what also made the new TL back then super appealing was when you looked underneath the hood. A lot of the German competition offered pretty decent horsepower figures back then. However, Acura, they introduced a 3.2-liter V6, which was the same as the previous generation, but now it made 270 horsepower in the base version. So now the car had 10 more horsepower versus the old high-performance Type S models. Now, the one thing Acura also introduced was all new transmissions. The 5-speed automatic had been beefed up. It shared no lineage to the previous generation, which was suffering from transmission problems. And Acura also offered a manual transmission if you guys went for the earlier models, a 6-speed manual that included a limited slip differential and upgraded Brembo brakes. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is the Type S model. Acura gave this car a significant refreshing back in 2007, and this model has a 3.5-liter VTEC V6, which came out of the Acura RL. This made 286 horsepower. Now, when Acura refreshed the car, they actually took away the manual from the base model, and you could get the manual as a no-cost option on the Type S, which also included the limited slip differential, or you could also choose a 5-speed automatic. All TLs, remember, remained front-wheel drive. This one here that I'm showing you has the 5-speed automatic, so it doesn't have the limited slip differential. Now, that extra horsepower underneath the hood meant that the TL had much better performance than a lot of its German competitions. Most of these models would sprint to 60 in under 6 seconds, and delimited, they would also reach a top speed of around 155, 160 miles an hour. So this was very strong performance back then. It allowed this generation TL to become the best-selling version of the TL, with Acura selling about 79,000 units in 2005, which again made it the best-selling luxury sports sedan in the States. In total, Acura managed to move around 332,000 of these TLs, which again makes this the best-selling of all the TL generations, and it's why a lot of people are still looking for these in the used car market. This particular Type S that I'm showing you here can be as much as $20,000 in today's money if you find one that is in pristine condition that has very low miles. So what makes this generation TL so good to drive? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because you guys saw underneath the hood, this thing has a cold air intake, which literally makes me feel like I'm in high school, especially when you do this. Oh yes, you can hear the VTEC crossover, and that's what made Honda and Acura so special back then, was that VTEC crossover. Above 5,000 RPM, I would switch over to a different cam lobe. The engine would start to breathe a little bit more. It just made the car sing, and it loves to rev, and that's exactly why people love to buy Hondas and Acuras back then. Ooh, yes, from a stop. And you know what, even though this car is 12 years old, with 286 horsepower and that intake, it actually still moves pretty well. We're gonna hop into the 2020 TLX PMC, which has the new version of this engine and that 9-speed. And you're gonna see the differences. Really, the 5-speed is the only thing that kind of shows the age of this car. I would definitely prefer to go with the manual transmission. It's one of the reasons why the manual models hold their value even better. And trying to find one, a Type S specifically, that's in good shape with the manual transmission, that's something that's always difficult to do. But once you do find one, they're really nice cars to keep, and to keep in pristine condition. The glory days of the third generation TL were left in the past when Acura launched the much larger and much more complex 2009 TL. It was the first TL to offer all-wheel drive, which was called super handling all-wheel drive, and Acura even offered it with a manual transmission starting in 2010 until the very last one was built in 2014. Under the hood, the 3.5-liter engine became standard, and it pumped out 280 horsepower paired to a 5-speed automatic, which back then was down about a gear or two compared to its rivals. Those of you who opted for the super handling all-wheel drive model got an even bigger 3.7-liter V6 with 305 horsepower, making it the most powerful TL ever produced. When paired with the 6-speed manual, this model sprinted to 60 in 5.2 seconds. Unfortunately, it was also one of the heaviest TLs, with the all-wheel drive models weighing in at just over 4,000 pounds. This generation also introduced a gaudy chrome beak at the front, and Acura ballooned the size of this car by about 6 inches compared to the previous generation. On the inside, this TL was the first one to offer cooled seats and a blind spot monitoring system when you opted for an advanced package, first offered in 2012. That same year, Acura refreshed the design of the TL, toning down the obnoxious beak in the hopes of improving sales. At the same time, they replaced the antiquated 5-speed automatic with an all-new 6-speed automatic across the board. While this generation TL offered the most space, power, and luxury, sales just never reached the 70,000 plus units a year that the third generation enjoyed. In fact, looking at the sales numbers for this generation, it had the longest run in America, yet Acura only managed to sell about 167,000 units from 2009 all the way up to 2014. Because of the slow sales, the TL was discontinued that year and replaced with a new model that combined the TSX to create the TLX. When the all-new TLX came out, Acura was determined to invigorate some of the magic from the third-gen TL with the smaller TLX in 2015. It merged the TSX and TL together, roughly chopping about 4 inches off the overall length, but preserving the same wheelbase as the old TL to create a vehicle that was just right sized, and things looked promising. The TLX offered a choice between a 2.4-liter iVTEC 4-cylinder with about 206 horsepower or a 3.5-liter VTEC V6, which had about 290 horsepower. A new 8-speed dual-clutch transmission with a torque converter was an industry first, and it was paired with the 2.4-liter models. It allowed for lightning-fast shifts, while all the V6 models used a new 9-speed automatic from ZF. Unfortunately for you enthusiasts, the 6-speed manual was dropped from the lineup, while front-wheel drive models introduced a new PAWS system, which stood for Precision All-Wheel Steering. You could continue to get super handling all-wheel drive on the V6 models as an option. The inside of the TLX introduced Acura Watch, which was a driver assistance tech, a new twin-screen infotainment system layout, and a push-button transmission selector when you guys opted for the 9-speed automatic. It still didn't quite have the luxury feel of some rivals, but had some nice upgrades over the 4th gen TL. The TLX also lost the trademark double wishbone front suspension from the TL, and McPherson struts were in its place. Despite the change, handling remained sporty, yet the ride quality was improved. Behind me is the TLX PMC, and it's kind of like the final hurrah to this generation TLX, while Acura is working on a replacement for 2021. It combines the features from the A-Spec Sport package and the top-of-the-line Advanced package, so you can finally get things like power folding mirrors, 360-degree camera, heated steering wheel, and heated rear seats. At the same time, Acura paints it in a very lush and labor-intensive shade of Valencia Red Pearl from the NSX supercar. It's even assembled in the same performance manufacturing center as the Halo supercar. A Type S was never introduced for this generation, but this is about as close as we can get. Unfortunately, no additional power was added, so you still get 290 horsepower with the V6, a 9-speed automatic sending power through super handling all-wheel drive. The interior has not aged well with the screen graphics, but Acura did add Apple CarPlay and Android Auto when they refreshed the car in 2018. Sales in 2015 peaked at around 50,000 units total, and Acura has managed to sell a little over 195,000 TLXs from 2014 to 2019. So now I'm here with my friend Keith, who is actually the owner of that 2008 TL Type S. Congrats on that car, by the way, Keith. It is absolutely beautiful, and it only has 46,000 miles. So for this part of the video, I wanted to actually put Keith in the new TLX because I wanted to get his thoughts from an owner's perspective on how this new version of his car technically feels. And I'm trying to keep it as off the cuff as possible because Keith has never driven this generation TLX. This is your first time driving it. And tell me, Keith, what are your impressions? Does this thing kind of remind you of your car a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. It feels like a more updated version of my car. It definitely is a little bit smoother, a little bit quieter. What you would expect, you know, from a newer version of my car.
How's the, like, in terms of like how, because your car, I regarded it as like one of those sportiest, like best, like sports sedans Acura's ever built. How does the steering feel in this one? How does the transmission feel? How does the engine feel compared to yours?
Well, so far, I haven't really gotten a great chance to give it the go.
And feel free to give it the beans if you want to see what this thing's like.
As Sarah Entuned would say. Let's see here. Okay, well, the transmission's definitely quicker to respond than mine, that's for sure. I mean, that's to be expected. You have a new 9-speed, right? Right. As opposed to an old 5-speed auto, so that's...
Now, in the industry, this transmission has gotten a lot of negative criticism for the fact that it's kind of slow to shift and a little laggy, which is hilarious because, you know, you get so used to driving an older 5-speed from 10, 15 years ago and you drive a modern transmission, it does feel good, but this ZF has still, like, Acura's toyed with the programming in it, but it's still a little behind in terms of shift quality, quickness, smoothness, compared to the ZF 8-speed even. It's built by the same company, but it's just a different design. How's the steering feel in this car compared to?
Steering feels great. First of all, I mean, I love the steering wheel. It's nice and thick, nice and girthy. Yeah, I love the steering wheel in this car, and it seems to corner nicely. It doesn't have too much body.
Does it feel bigger than your car or smaller, would you say?
It feels chunkier in a sense that it's a little harder to see out of.
Okay. The hood looks interesting, doesn't it, with those bulges that it has?
Yes, and I love that. It feels very muscular. But on the other hand, I think it feels lighter the way it takes corners. I don't think it leans nearly as much as my car does. Not that mine does a lot, but...
Okay, I'm gonna switch it into Sport Plus. It was in Sport earlier. I actually want you to kind of find a little straightaway later on, and we'll have you give it the beans from a stop, because this car has super handling all-wheel drive, and even though it has the same engine as your car, guess how much horsepower this has compared to the 286 in yours?
I feel like I should know this, but let's say...
I have not told him yet.
I'm just going to guess like 305-ish.
Oh, I wish. It actually makes 4 more horsepower than yours. 290.
That's it?
290 and 267 torque. I think it makes like 10 more torque than yours, but it doesn't really show much for progress over the last 12 years.
Not for 12 years, yeah.
No, like this car should be making 400 horsepower at this, at this,
380.
something like that, which Acura is supposedly working on that. We'll save that for the later part in the video. But I think we're coming up on a straight over here, and
here we go. How's that?
Yeah.
Is this straight enough?
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, I just want you to give it the beans and see what you think.
Here we go. Sounds nice.
Does it?
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell it's pretty much the same power as my car.
Okay.
I guess I can kind of see what people are saying about the ZF transmission, how it's a little slow to shift. I did notice it there.
There's like a little delay almost. Like it doesn't kind of have those quick bang off the shifts.
Yeah,
thing.
like it hesitated a little bit.
There's a slight delay, which is confused, which is it's not nice to feel in a car like this because it's supposed to be a sporty car, but like it does a decent job when you have it in Sport Plus of downshifting. Like it downshifted there, I saw. How's the ride quality of this thing? Feel okay?
I think it feels great, especially for being based off of an older Accord. I think it actually feels good.
All right, so Acura obviously didn't, move the powertrain needle far enough with more horsepower, but the car obviously, looks really nice on the outside. What do you think of the interior of this thing, though? 12 years of progress. How does that look?
12 years of progress. It doesn't look like 12 years of progress. I mean, it's nice. It's nice. It's definitely an upgrade over the 2008, which it should be. However, it looks old.
Yeah, I say that nav screen kind of looks almost like your nav screen, just maybe a couple of more squiggly lines here and there.
Yeah, it looks like, maybe they gave it a couple updates in the software.
Right.
So it's fine, but yeah, they need to do a full revamp, I think, of this.
Yeah, because ultimately it just kind of looks like an Accord.
Yeah.
Like this interior. It's
Accord vibes.
Yeah, I mean, even the new Accord kind of looks better because this is based off of the old generation Accord, the 9th gen, versus the 10th gen Accord has a completely new platform. So Acura is working on a Type S, or like a new generation TLX for 2021 is what we're getting at. They showed us that concept. It's supposed to have a twin turbo V6. It's supposed to continue to offer super handling all-wheel drive. No word yet if a manual will return. I mean, my hope is that Acura will use the 8-speed dual clutch that's in the 4-cylinder, which I guess you haven't driven one of those yet either. Which is a much better transmission than this 9-speed ZF, surprisingly. But yeah, I mean, overall, would you rather drive your TL or this new one?
My TL. Not biased at all.
Right, not biased at all. But I mean, obviously, your car is very highly sought after in the market. They're holding their value extremely well, and you can get those with a manual transmission, which came with a limited flip diff. Granted, it was only front-wheel drive, but that car just looks so timeless and classic on the outside. This car does look good on the outside, especially I like this PMC model that we're driving. Actually, it makes you feel a little special because the plaque here says that this is number 47 out of 360 that they're building. But basically what PMC means is the car is hand-built at the same facility that the NSX is built in. It's painted in the same beautiful shade of Valencia red pearl with nano pigment technology. It's a very, very stunning red that's painted, I think, 5 times. And typically Acura charges $5,000 or $6,000 for this color, but it's thrown in for free. And we get basically the A-Spec Sport package and the advanced tech package, so you get like the 360 camera, the heated rear seats and heated steering wheel, all that for like $50,000. Fair price?
A little salty, but because it's it's a special car, especially for Acura enthusiasts.
Right.
I think it is okay.
Okay.
I think it's okay. But it's on the high side. For me, definitely too high.
Okay, so now we finally come to the part where I tell you that Acura is ready to return the TLX to the same greatness that they had with the 2008 Acura TL Type S. We already got a taste of where they're headed with the next generation version of this sports sedan with the Type S concept that they showed at LA last November. And Acura has already confirmed that a Type S is coming and it will be applied to a multitude of mainstream models. So not just one model like they have in the past, and the Type S has also been confirmed to have a new powertrain. It'll have a twin turbocharged V6. No word word yet on the displacement or the horsepower figures. I'm hoping it'll be around 400. And we also have no word yet if there's going to be a manual transmission coming. So all you enthusiasts out there are going to have to hold your breath, because I'm suspecting Acura will probably use a beefed up version of the 8-speed dual clutch or the lovely 10-speed automatic, which will be probably the sole transmission offering. Remember, manual transmissions are kind of dying here in the US. The Type S concept was really a stunning looking car when I saw it in LA. If you guys want to watch that video, be sure to click on the link in the description below where I give you a full detailed walk around look of the car. I actually saw hints of Chevrolet Camaro, some muscle cars. So my only hope is that Acura actually keeps the concept's beautiful styling and transfers it over to the production model. Because if you guys remember Honda and Acura, they tend to show these very stunning concepts, but then kind of water it down for the actual production model. So only time will tell if Acura is able to actually deliver a Type S concept that will truly appeal to enthusiasts, both on the performance end and of course on the looks end. Now, they also haven't told us when we will see this finished product, but my guess is it'll be toward the end of this year. So the only thing I can say for Acura is please don't let us down. Deliver a Type S model that can truly go head to head with the Germans. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video talking about the long and intriguing history of the Acura TL Sports Sedan. Remember, if you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.